Now it's live.
Okay, we're not a Rocket League stream anymore?
We are not a Rocket League stream anymore. We are a Linux, This Week in Linux stream.
Darn. Okay, we're not a Rocket League stream anymore?
We are not a Rocket League stream anymore. So, pop out the...
I do like that for the 10 seconds we were live before, the Fern OS stuff commented.
Yeah.
So quick.
Yep. He's paying attention in the Discord, so it made sense.
Probably his hacks.
He's got walls. Walls.
Oh, I can't do that. Oh, no. I'll just do it this way. No, not that way. That way.
But the other way.
It's the other way. The other way that's more convenient and less stressful to me. I don't know, less stressful, honestly. Oh, no, gonna do that. So, pipe wire. Yep. Make sure the order of the stuff that we're going. That's not right. See, I almost messed the order up. All right, now we're good. Welcome to the stream, Wellness Socks, Paul, UK Beast. UK Beast, good timing, actually. I did say the word pipewire, but we're going to also talk about it and explain it a little bit and things. So, there you go. It is very convenient that you are interested in it because, you know, that's what we're going to talk about.
Are we officially on the pre-show now? Can we talk about cooking?
No rice, dude. No rice.
Actually, I could talk about something else for a change. If there's interest in talking about Magic the Gathering, because that's what has been in my mind for the last couple of days.
I mean, somewhat, yes, but the pre-show is active, yes. I don't know how much we're going to do in the pre-show, though.
I mean, who doesn't love Magic the Gathering?
The people who want to save money.
You know what? I think it all depends on how much you want. It's like buying a car, you know.
Well,
It
the fact
all
that
depends
one
on
deck
how-
costs
You are
like
not-
$300, right?
You are not making it easier for me when you're just like, oh, it's just like buying a car.
No, I mean, I don't think it costs as much as a car, but my point is that it's it's your decision as to how much you spend in the car, right? And you can.
Well, the fact that
get
you
a
could spend up to
useful,
what a
cheap
car cost is an issue.
Well, so again, yes, you technically can spend enough money on a single deck of cards that costs enough as much as a car. That is possible because there are cards that are out of print now. They're on a list of cards that will never be reprinted, and there's only so many of them in circulation, and they're from early editions that had a very low print run.
Right, but what I was saying was that you could spend in collective you could spend buying enough to be what you could afford a car. But you're saying that there actually are card decks that legitimately could be worth of a
They're
car.
single cards that are worth upwards of $4,000.
No.
I don't even know what to say.
I like D&D that costs nothing. It's just time, and let's do that.
Okay,
What's
so,
your play
so
in addiction ad right now?
here's the thing, guys. If you just want to have fun and play casually, you can buy for like $25 in a box. There's something called dual decks. there are 2 decks in a box. They're designed to be fun to play against each other, and yeah, all it costs you is $25, and you can have hours of fun playing it. And if you play with a friend, you can switch decks or whatever. You get much more fun out of that $25 set of cards than you would have out of a lot of $25 games on Steam, right?
I mean, for $2, I could buy just a set of playing cards and play, how many games?
Okay, see, this is where the important thing with the new set of cards comes in. The new set of Magic the Gathering cards is all about pirates and dinosaurs.
Okay.
Like, you don't get that on a $2 set of playing cards. Pirates.
When you can get a $3 set of playing cards that has dinosaurs on it.
There's literally a card in this set with an artwork of a T-Rex chasing a pirate.
I mean,
Sold. Where do I pick one up?
Your local gaming store.
Oh, yeah, you can get Magic everywhere. Magic is all around us.
It was sarcasm.
About pirates? You want to find pirates? All right, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But you can also, buy a $30,000 deck of legacy cards.
All right, we'll save that for the after show then. How about that? How about you can?
You're already disappointed. Wow. We're not off to a good start here.
Can we play Magic inside of Morrowind? Is the better question.
No, but actually, it's kind of interesting. There's like the official Magic the Gathering online, and it costs money to play, and you have to buy cards. Kind of like you can play some for free, but not a whole lot. Kind of like Hearthstone. But there's a couple of open source solutions where people actually just copy the cards into the game, and you can play for free.
Fountain, this is your fault.
It is my fault. I allowed this to continue. I'm actually kind of interested in the last part, but that's for the post show. Post. And by post, I mean like next week.
The beginning of next week.
So,
wow.
This is like, I'm hurt.
Not really. Actually, I'm kind of interested. The free ones, I'm sort of interested. Anyway, so let's we're gonna start the show now. So it's starting to work on Witcher 3. Yes, it is. Sort of. Well, it's already been working on it. They're just improving pieces of it slowly, which is still good. But it's still broken essentially. All right. So this is the start of the show, and I'm going to introduce it or whatever. This Week in Linux Live is your weekly source for Linux good news. And this episode is brought to you by Linux is Everywhere t-shirt that I made for this channel. So, self-promotion at its best. So, first up this week, we're going to talk about the Pipewire project. And Pipewire is a multimedia processing library that I don't know that much about, but thankfully we have someone who does. So could you take it away, sir?
Sure, yeah. So to kind of sum up what Pipewire is, you've got to kind of know what we currently have as a desktop, because Pipewire is actually a solution to go into basically turn what we already have, which is kind of a mess of many programs, into one solid program that will not only theoretically allow us to, configure all of your audio and video needs in one place, but also allow for people to interface with things all in one area and kind of hide the complexity and the nastiness behind the scenes. Like right now, we have Pulse Audio and Jack, and we have GStreamer, which does all kinds of nasty stuff with drivers, and it's really quite complicated. But the nice thing is Pipewire is here to kind of come in and kind of, I guess, save the day and try and combine where we have all kinds of different technologies, put them behind one kind of layer, so that, you know, for example, theoretically in the future, maybe you go and you install Pipewire, you'll be able to go and to have one config and set everything up quickly, and you know, you'll have automatic hardware decoding, where right now, you know, that's a nightmare to set up. You know, theoretically, end of day, this will go and will combine together Pulse Audio, Jack, all these things into one neat, seamless program.
So a lot of people are saying that it's the Pulse Audio for video, and your description implies that it's not necessarily just for video, and it's for almost everything as far as multimedia goes. Would that be correct?
Exactly. Yeah, it's really there to go and to kind of combine the different subsystems that we already have into one kind of layer. It's not just video. If it was just video, it would just be, you know, a replacement on top of GStreamer, which, you know, we already have. So that wouldn't gain us much. But, you know, when we have Pipewire, which is supposed to be, you know, a great way to go and to combine it all, that actually accomplishes more than what we have today.
Okay, so what about Pulse Video? Like, so what do you think about the separation between Pulse Video, Pulse Audio, and GStreamer, having these all separate versus having Pipewire as far as a practical solution? And would it be a practical solution to replace all of these elements with this one?
Well, that kind of remains to be seen. So far, you know, it looks like it's going to be possible, but right now, just the whole kind of landscape I'm not gonna, you know, I don't want to play into kind of memes, but, you know, people like to use the term toxic, and really the whole area surrounding this area, you know, kind of is, to be honest, toxic. You know, you have so many different technologies that, you know, no one's really working together on. For example, you want to do hardware decoding. Well, you know, there's NVIDIA's option, there's AMD's option. No one's working together there. You know, you have all these different options. And to be honest, it's a lot for people to go into to keep a handle on, you know, especially let's say you change your different video card. All of a sudden, you need to know a whole set of new technologies. So theoretically, this will make it better because you won't have to think about that stuff as much.
So does Pipewire aim to replace Jack and Pulse Audio completely?
That isn't entirely clear yet. I personally don't see how they possibly can. Their Jack and Pulse Audio are two completely different things. You know, people can go on and on. You know, for example, most people that are doing professional audio work, they use Jack. Simply because Pulse Audio just does not have decent defaults to go and to be used in a professional manner, and it doesn't really have a lot of the features that most professional audio people need to go and to do their job.
So it's not a combination of the existing ones, and it's not a replacement of the existing ones. What is it?
Yeah, I know. This is the thing. It looks like there are going to be parts of Pulse Audio and the rest that are going to be pulled into it, and there are going to be parts that are replaced. You know, at least
so it's
that's
a
what
re-envisioning,
it looks like.
basically.
Exactly. Like they're not. You know, first of all, they can't just go up and walk up to the Jack guys and say, "Hey, you're not allowed to work on your project anymore. You just gotta come in here and just join this thing." You know, it certainly is going to be a combination to some point of these projects. It's just a question of what will be combined. Will it be the back ends of these things? Will it be libjack? Will there be a libpulse? Are they only going to use libpulse? Are they going to use more than that? Are we going to stick with PAVU control? You know, how is this all going to mesh together? That's not all quite really clear right now.
So it's the system D of audio.
kind of, it's going to be combining a significant number of areas. So as you can imagine, there are probably going to be people that are going to hate it for what it is. Maybe for good reasons, maybe for bad reasons, but
I mean, that's
Yeah,
every
I think
project essentially. Seems.
anyone who's messed with doing advanced things in audio and Linux, I think would love some simplicity and consistency around how that works.
Absolutely. I mean, I am a huge fan of Jack in the sense of like when I use it and when I test it out and things, like it's so powerful and so simple once you have it set up. But the setup process is painful. So if you could just simplify, all of these different variables, it still have the power of Jack, that would be fantastic. And that's kind of what they're implying, because they were even saying, I looked into some of it, like Pipewire, some of the devs of Pipewire are saying that you could take a mixer and take all of the outputs from a mixer and make it into single software input if you wanted to. Like, why would you want to do that? But like, you could take all of these things, do it both hardware and software way. So like, instead of having for someone to require them to buy a specific mixer or buy like this massive powerful mixer, they can have a software mixer that is essentially going to accomplish the same thing as long as they have all of the things hooked up. And that's something that to me is why Jack is so powerful, is that it can do those things fairly easily, not super easy, but like it's fairly easy. And except for the whole setup of Jack is not easy at all. So I don't know, it sounds like something that I hope they can do, but it also sounds like they're trying to take on a giant project, to say the least.
absolutely, and extremely technical.
Yeah. So I guess good luck to them, and I will definitely keep up to date with it, and so we can like talk about it in the future if they have some new information. But new information that came out this week for a release candidate for Pitivi, the Linux video editor, is one of a few Linux video editors that is the forefront of the innovation for the space. Pitivi is currently doing a release candidate for the 1.0 release, and hopefully, I haven't actually tested this particular release, but I've tested previous ones. And while the other ones were a little buggy, since this is a release candidate and the rest were beta, it's possible that this one's going to be a lot better experience. It's interesting that they have replaced their app image with a Flatpak instead. But they used to just provide an app image, and now they just provide a Flatpak. They didn't explain why they'd made that decision. I assume it's because of the GNOME, not partnership, but like integration stuff. And it kind of like took me aback, so because I was looking forward to it, and it's like, well, now I got to install Flatpak in order to use this. So I don't know. It's a beta project, or not really beta, I guess, but it's a development project for an editor that has had a very long track record of not being that useful, and is trying to change all of that. So I give them the best of luck. And they even like restructured their versioning to take over like their previous versions are completely irrelevant at this point now. But the Flatpak switch is actually kind of interesting because it brings up the topic of, again, I guess, the Flatpak versus Snap versus app image debate, and whether which one is the better for which particular purpose. And it also is an interesting topic because of the recent update from Ubuntu that all of the GNOME apps are available in 1604 thanks to snaps. So one of the things I hated the most about GNOME apps ever, like just their entire existence, is the lack of packaging any of their applications ever. Never cared to do so. Now that they're doing it, Flatpaks don't get updates as much as I would like them to be. They're not well supported everywhere, things like that. But you can do all of the applications from GNOME now in snaps, and that seems like to me it seems like a turning point. I don't know. What do y'all think?
I think it's a great step forward. I mean, the fact that you had something that was so dependent on so many libraries, and that was incredibly hard to package, even on its own. I mean, even Flatpak, which is, I wouldn't say, completely part of GNOME, but it certainly has a fair amount of GNOME backing. Even it struggled to go and to have, GNOME applications packaged. The fact that we've now got, something that actually can, and then, it seems to be doing a pretty good job. This is a pretty big step forward.
Absolutely. There's another. This is an interesting topic to talk about as far as Snap goes, in the sense that there's an interview with a developer, an Electron-based application. We could argue which one that's good or not, but skipping over that part, there's an interview with that developer talking about their experience with building a snap, and it's a really interesting discussion that it shows that their experience with not wanting to make a Linux software at all, like they were releasing a tarball that was just a binary version of an Electron app for about a year or so, and then the Linux community who used that application were asking them about making snaps and app images for many, many months. When they finally take a look at it, they realize that it's really easy to switch it over, so that they still make the tarball if people want it, but they now make a snap and as well as a deb. But they said that they prefer the snap because it's so easy to make and so easy to update and so easy to basically everything. So it's a really interesting thing that the snaps are making such progress, while Flatpak's GNOME still doesn't have some of their own applications in Flatpaks. But I will say it's really cool that FlatHub exists now, because FlatHub has been around for a while, but they now have a website that devotes, that shows you links and gives you like an actual repository of Flatpaks. So there is some benefit to Flatpaks now. Like they are realizing that the previous version of repos everywhere is a very bad idea. Well, okay, technically Flatpaks themselves aren't realizing that. FlatHub is realizing that, and there is somewhat of a partnership between the two, but they're not really the same project. And anyway, so but as far as the video editor of PiTiVi goes, I've always wanted it to be like what they've announced that they've been trying to do. They've just been doing it so slowly that I've not really put that much effort into it. And there's a lot of editors already that do a lot of the things that they wanted to do. So I don't really like OpenShot that much, but they're becoming a viable option now for a lot of people, especially when they've solved many of the biggest complaints that, the stability is still a complaint, but there's been in many complaints that they solve, like the waveform on the tracks and things like that. It has gotten a lot better than it previously was, but PiTiVi has a lot of potential, so I do look forward to its eventual release. Although they do need to make better code names, because Ocean Big Chair is terrible. It's just terrible.
Kind of a joke.
It makes Beefy Miracle look like one of the best code names ever. Even though Beefy Miracle is pretty good, as far as fun wise, this one makes it look like just a decently decided code name. Like, not
they probably just couldn't come up with anything and just threw a random name generator at it.
It does seem like that. It's like, we need 2 nouns and an adjective. Let's see what happens.
I refuse to think that a sentient being came up with this name.
I hope not. I hope not. So, next up on the show is the announcement that Purism has made for the Librem 5, making a partnership with KDE and GNOME project to have support for both desktop environments inside of the Librem 5. Now, for people who might be confused about what this partnership means, it's not a thing that's saying that either one of these are going to be the default for Purism's Librem 5. They've already said that the default for Librem 5 is going to be Pure OS, so they've already made that clear. This is just a partnership that shows that they're embracing the ecosystem around Linux to point that, they claim that they're going to be supporting practically any Linux distribution. And this is a way to kind of show their dedication to that.
And options are good. And having multiple parallel teams working on various implementations of phone UIs is going to be really good. I think it's going to push them to develop faster. It's going to push users to try it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be good. I like the decision.
As someone who's used many different mobile interfaces that have come up, I used Firefox OS, I used a bunch of touch, used Android. I actually used iOS, in its really early stages. I've seen a lot of the different interfaces, and I do have my favorites, but what I would say is I really hope that because of this, they can kind of look at the many decisions that have been made over time and see which ones really worked and see which ones worked smoothly. Because the number one thing that it really comes down to with most people anyway that I've seen is, even to the point, and I'm going to bring up a really old phone manufacturer, but BlackBerry, it had holdouts for a very long time. And it's ridiculous that it did. And for the most part, they held out. It was because they had ergonomics, or they had just features that they really liked, and they liked the way that things worked. And if you can get that'll corner a market easily. And really, the big things where I see that, kind of things that failed, for example, in Ubuntu Touch, that, some of the gestures just didn't work, and, things like Firefox OS, sure, it didn't have a lot of, really fancy technologies around it, but the gestures worked really well, and people like that. It's one of those things where you kind of look through and you see, there's areas that we can go and learn from this, and it's just a matter of, are they going to pick this up?
Yeah, I mean, I do like the fact that they're partnering, and they are, letting other people provide ideas of like what could be done, and whether they're going to pick it up or not is a good point. I do like the idea that if this phone is funded, which right now it's 44% roughly funding, and it's about a month left, I do hope that they get it funded. I personally, I don't have the dedication to put $600 to a concept for a hope.
Yeah, it's an expensive phone, and I think that's the one thing that really works against all these projects. It was the same with Ubuntu Edge. It was a really cool phone, but it was expensive, and it is, it's a crowdfunding campaign, so you never actually know whether you're actually going to get it. Whereas, I can buy a comparable phone without the privacy protection things, for $400, and it's going to ship to me within a couple of days.
Right.
So that's like,
and probably be cheaper too.
Yeah, and it's so for people who don't really care about privacy or don't like actively hold an interest in this, it's not like no one would spend that kind of money on it, right? If you don't care about privacy, and most people don't. What I think is really cool about this is I noticed one of the issues with the Ubuntu phone was that while it was Linux, it wasn't really that customizable. You didn't really have that many options. Like, it was built in a way where you eventually would be able to do all this stuff, but unless you were willing to port and compile all the things yourself, it just wasn't there. So it's cool that with Purism 5, it will be out there right out of the gate, right? You will be able to pick your desktop environment, just like you can on the desktop, and you can have dumb arguments about which one's the best.
Which one works better on the phone? Yeah. That's a good point, and that is one of the reasons I'm looking forward to it. I wish I had the money to be okay with just putting it into a concept, but unfortunately not for that much and not for that long of a wait. So for those who do have it, I would encourage you to do it, so that I could benefit from your generosity in the future.
Like if you have too much money, support the Purism 5 crowdfunding campaign, and then send the rest of it to me.
Sure. If you have too much, like it's just overflowing, right?
The ground floor of this technology too, right? Nobody really has brought one to market and stayed in the market other than Firefox OS.
As far as their own system, that's true.
Yeah, so I think if they can get this working and shipping on a few and prove the underlying technologies, we all remember Android 1, right?
It was awful. Yeah. It was awful. But actually, up
that
until
might be day
4,
one,
it
just
was
getting
awful.
something out the door that kind of works or works basically. Somebody needs to do it because otherwise we're never gonna have a Linux phone, an open phone.
That's very likely. If this one fails, more than likely it's going to be, if ever, a very long time before someone tries again. I mean, it's a very long time since between the Edge phone and this one. So there's been people who've tried some ways to get around it, but no one's tried to do like a full phone with a full system other than these two that I know of. You could say that the selfish people kind of did, but not really. But the phone is actually pretty cool because, like, as far as specs go, we don't really know. But as far as like the dedication to the ecosystem is something I am very much interested in, and the fact that I could use whatever distro I want, theoretically, based on the partnerships that they have, would be awesome.
See, that's the thing. With Sailfish, the selling point of the Sailfish was that it wasn't Android, but it was running Android applications, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's good, but it's not going to convince me to buy that phone over an Android phone. Right. Whereas, if the selling point of the Purism, aside from the privacy thing, obviously, is the fact that I can pick my own desktop environment and try stuff out and play with it. Like, I tested out desktop environments on the desktop. See, that's appealing to me.
So in the chat room, Anthony De La Rosa said, I don't pay $300 plus for a phone. I really like it, but I'm a disaster and don't take care of my phone and drop it a lot. So that is definitely an issue of the expensiveness of these phones. But that's also true for all phones. Like once you get to a certain amount, it becomes somewhat of an obligation to yourself that you're spending that much money on a device that you have to protect it so much.
And with that problem, and you run into a huge, what I always found was you ran into a huge problem. A lot of these phones, for example, my Firefox OS Flame, you just can't get a case for it. You can't get screen protectors for it. It's a one-off device, which really sucks. And that's what I worry about with the Librem. Is it's going to be great. Maybe it's a wonderful phone. Let's be super positive. It's a great phone. Everything's good about it. it's not based on another phone. There's not going to be a whole lot of accessories for it.
That's true.
I was lucky with my Ubuntu phone. It was actually based on another Android phone, so I could actually go and I could get something to protect it. So for me, I still have that phone actually, and it's still working just fine, mostly because I had a case for it. With the Firefox OS phone, didn't have a case. Eventually, I slipped out of my hands, hit the concrete, shattered the screen to a million pieces.
Yeah, it sounds.
And I mean, just to the price point of where these phones are consistently at that, over $500 mark, there have been really quality phones in the past sold for under that. Thinking of like the early Nexuses and the OnePlus One, for example. I don't understand why everybody thinks that these phones need to be $1,000. Technology at $400, 3 or 4 years ago, when I bought the original OnePlus One, has gotten way better. So make the exact same phone as the OnePlus One, maybe a different case or whatever else. I don't think I need more features than that had. I don't see the
ZTE
justifications
makes
for the additional
amazing.
$800 price.
ZTE makes amazing inexpensive phones, and I'm not just talking about their sub $100 line. That Firefox phones were existing in. I am even talking about like sub $400 line of ZTE phones. Is really good. Like the new like car manufacturers always, like every year pretty much, release these super expensive phones that cost like $5,000 and then market them through like people in Saudi Arabia. The new Lamborghini phone is essentially the ZTE Accent 7. So the Accent 7, I believe costs $350 right now. The Lamborghini edition costs like $6,000. But like you can get the phone, and it's like I think as far as the specs on it are concerned, it's comparable to Galaxy 7. We're currently at 8, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
S8.
So Samsung. Yeah, so S7 would be comparable. So like it's a good phone, and I think another thing, like for a few years we were with phones, I think, in the same space where we were with desktops in like mid 90s to mid 2000s, where hardware was improving really, really fast. And if you wanted to get the latest and greatest applications, you had to upgrade your hardware like every couple of years. And now it's slowed down, and the newest games still run fine on a hardware that's 4 years old. And I think we're going to reach that stage with phones soon, where you won't need, the latest and greatest phone to run the coolest new application anymore. Even that's true to a large extent right now, because app manufacturers or software developers don't target the latest Android
They target a
release
mid
specifically. Yeah, they target the one that's most popular, and Google releases stats for that so you can track it. So even now they're not tracking the latest phones. They're targeting the most popular ones. So I think when this, let's get, more cores and more memory into phones, things slows down a little bit, will arrive at the point where a device will stay current for long enough so that you can take, the whatever it will be, Samsung Galaxy S15, hopefully not, maybe S10, take a year to write open source drivers for every component, reverse engineer it, and release that phone, an operating system for this phone, or kind of the way people do it with ThinkPads, where they, you can buy a refurbed ThinkPad with that's fully free, with Trisquel on it or whatever.
So that's a good point, but that also that there's a specific reason why the Librem 5 has the ability to do the multiple distro thing, and it's because they're separating the baseband firmware from the operating system itself, whereas most of these Android phones do not do that, and it requires the phone manufacturer to also look at that being a possibility. So the reason why I think this phone even has a potential to exist is because the manufacturer of the phone is not Purism. It's an ODM type thing where they're hiring a manufacturer to do it, and that manufacturer is already looking into doing a baseband separation. So the reason why this phone has greater potential, in my opinion, is because of that baseband separation.
Yeah, I was just going to say on that same line, when you talk about the firmware for a device, it's almost, and I hate to say it, even with new Intel processors, etc., and it's been talked about with Intel ME and the rest, the manufacturers have started signing firmware, and it's become a real problem. It's getting to the point where we cannot replace firmware anymore. We need to go and to ask them to go and to sign firmware first, and they simply won't.
That's even happening on the desktop and laptop level.
And what's worse is it's even worse in the phone market, because the person that we need to ask to go and to sign the firmware for is Qualcomm, and they are absolutely notorious for going and just being absolute jerks about this kind of stuff. They are not going to go and they're not going to help with this. The only way that I see, and this is the thing, Purism has found the only way out of this is the only way to get around this is to completely separate it from our main, the main phone OS. And there are going to be drawbacks to this. I'm sure that there's going to be problems where, instead of, the whole phone, turning off, or malfunctioning and people sending a phone back type thing, and it's obvious that there's something wrong with the phone, you're going to have things where all of a sudden, hey, my baseband or my modem just dropped out, and I can't see any towers. There are going to be consequences to this, and I think we're just going to see kind of the beginning of this. We'll see how it works out, but separating out the modem of the phone is not something you do lightly. I mean, so much is integrated now inside that modem. For example, they integrate the FM radio. They integrate they a lot of times they integrate different parts of the camera. They integrate different parts of speakers. They integrate so much into these silly little modems and they just expose everything as a driver to the actual phone operating system. This is I'm not sure how they're going to pull it off. I hope nothing but the best for them. But, it's a massive undertaking. And what they're saying, we're just going to separate it. That leaves me scratching my head a bit and saying, are you sure?
How they're going to separate it, I don't know. But to be fair, it isn't. Purism is not the one who's separating it. So
absolutely.
So that's at least that's actually a good sign, because they definitely do not have the expertise to do so. Just because they don't have, they're not making the hardware themselves, they wouldn't be able to separate that. So the manufacturer, I'll need to look up, see what manufacturers they were talking about having this done with. But because they have publicly announced what that would be. I just don't have that off the top of my head. So unfortunately, I can't really say that part. But it's a phone that I understand people don't want to spend that money right now. Let's say that $600 is ridiculous. Paul in the chat said that he'd rather buy a secondhand or like a refurbished or like a generation behind phone and save a lot of money. And I understand that. And my purposes for this phone, I don't want to spend $600 now, because right now it's a concept. It's $600 for a concept. But I don't have an issue with paying $600 for the phone. Because I would have a problem with paying $600 for an HTC or a Samsung or anything like that, because those phones are incredibly locked down and I can't control the phone and I can't do anything that I want to do. So that I do find offensive, in the sense of taking that much money and not allowing me to do what I want with it, without having to root it or flash the operating system. So this one is a high-end device, price-wise at least, that I'm okay with it being that price solely because of how much I want this to happen, how much I want a Linux-based phone, and especially a Linux-based like a GNU Linux-based phone that has the ability for me to use whatever distro I want on it. That sounds awesome. So I'm willing to pay extra for that. I just would rather, when I pay it, that the device to exist at the time. That's all. So I don't think that people. I think that people should, look at it in the sense that it might be a little higher than phones that they could get now, especially like things like the OnePlus, because the OnePlus, like the highest one you can get is 450, and that's like their 128 gig drive thing, like ridiculous phone. But it is still Android, so you're still dealing with that. Whereas this case, you're paying a little bit extra, and you're getting, I don't know, an idealistic phone that I've wanted for years. Since they first announced smartphones in 2007, I've wanted a Linux-based phone. But speaking of hardware that was recently announced, Station X has released an announcement for their new laptop that runs Manjaro, the Spitfire.
See, this is my time.
This is your time.
Talk crap about Manjaro for 30 minutes.
This is your time. Enjoy.
Okay, so here's the thing. Let me just say something before I begin my rant officially. If you are a Manjaro user and you like it, good for you. But please stop recommending it to other people. I had a conversation with someone recently who isn't like a techie person, but had an old desktop, and somebody recommended Manjaro to him. And I didn't even know that he had ever run Linux. Like it was just a random conversation, and something about operating system got mentioned, and turns out he used to run Manjaro. And I asked why he's not doing it anymore, and he said he left somewhere for a couple of weeks, came back home, and there were 2 updates released, and when he tried to update his computer, it wanted to do the latest updates, but you had to do the one before for it to update properly, and he didn't know how to fix it. So there you go. And I know it was probably, there was something posted on, on the Manjaro blog or the Arch forums or somewhere that gave you a step-by-step instruction on how to fix it. He wasn't a techie person. He couldn't figure it out on his own. Stopped using Linux altogether because he got the impression that this is what Linux is like. Right?
Exactly.
So imagine
every Arch-based distro, no one should suggest that to a beginner. Yeah.
So now imagine this person looks at a Manjaro laptop that comes in, it's all pre-installed for me, it's all set up, and I can expect it to be like a seamless experience, and does that update, or doesn't update it for a couple of weeks and tries to update it and it breaks. I don't think that would be fun for this person. And I know already, somebody's going to tell me, oh, this is so easy to fix. I think if you're dealing with non-techie people, and if the explanation they need or the instructions they need to fix something are too much for you to text them from your phone, then it's too complicated, right? If you can't fit it in a text message, I think that's like a sane limit, then it's too complex. And fixing Manjaro or Arch update issues is definitely not something you can fit in a text message. So I think it's a bad idea. I'm sure Manjaro people are excited, but probably very few actual current Manjaro users are going to buy it. I think it's just going to be a bad thing for Manjaro because people will buy it and realize, oh, this distro is not as doesn't give me the seamless experience I would expect when I actually buy something with an operating system pre-installed on it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't even thought about the aspect of, if they're using this as a front interface to people who aren't Linux, savvy. So why would you buy a laptop that has Linux based, built into it, other than I don't want to have to build it myself? And if it's that kind of person, they shouldn't be using Manjaro anyway, or any Arch based distro, regardless, because it's just a problematic situation where a lot of people want stuff to be set up for them so they don't have to do it. And then when you create a situation where they're using something that requires them to put a lot of effort into it, that's likely going to go blow up in their face. And that's an unfortunate thing that, I agree that this kind of laptop is, I understand why Manjaro would want it. I understand why Manjaro fans would want it. I don't understand why Station X would want to do it.
My whole thing with this kind of stuff is, you release this laptop. Let's once again take the positive note and say, okay, let's say it's only for people that already use Manjaro. Let's say that they're going to enjoy this, for what it is. For the most part, Manjaro is a distro that, you're going to do at some point some kind of maintenance, like Bressel talked about earlier, where, okay, I'm going to need to do some kind of administration work. So really, if you're going to accept there's going to be some kind of administration work, why is it that you're, you might buy this, to go in to save some time in installing the OS itself? Is it to save time to make sure that the actual, the OS itself is going to support all the things in it? Like, why this? My whole thing is, if you really want to do this kind of stuff, I think it would be much better to do something like what Ubuntu already does, where they actually have a hardware section, and they actually say, this laptop works out of the box with Ubuntu. You can buy it with Windows, whatever. You can stick an RCD and it will just work. They can do something like that. And that's probably going to be a lot better for a lot of people because, they'll have more choice than this, just the Station X. To me, this looks like one of those things, like a hardware vendor and the Manjaro guys are teaming up to go into maybe throw some money each way. I don't know. If it's not for that, then I just have questions as to who this benefits. Period.
Yeah.
Well, I think Station X wants to make a Linux laptop, which is always cool.
Well, Station X has been around for a little while, and they've been making Linux-based only laptops. So they've already have it.
But they don't want to just be another laptop that comes with Ubuntu pre-installed on it. So putting Manjaro on it, considering how many Manjaro and Arch fanboys there are around, from that perspective, it may not be the worst move. I just don't think there's that many Manjaro and Arch fanboys that would drop $1,000 on a laptop. Just because it comes with their favorite operating system on it, where
most people are who are Arch fans or Arch-based fans are wanting to do the things themselves anyway. So that doesn't it does kind of create a confusing, as Wizard said, it's who is this for? It's for people who like to mess with the computers.
Yeah. It leaves me going and looking at it and saying, okay, so I can kind of see what they're aiming for, but I don't know if that target market actually really exists. Is this going to be just for the people that use Manjaro and just have, I'm sorry, more money than, than sense. I don't know how to say that nicely.
In case somebody from some one of those Linux laptop companies actually listens, if you want to make a Linux laptop appealing to me, make one that is just stock Ubuntu. Make me a written promise that you will never want to make your own distro like Pop OS or whatever, with an exclamation mark in the name for whatever dumb reason, just so you can't actually
don't be all
can't
mean.
actually have the name of your operating system in any of your code.
It's not the exclamation point that makes it the problem. It's the exclamation point and the underscore and the ridiculous combination of everything together that is stupid.
Right?
Although the coding part where when you're talking about an article and you put it in your database and then it starts messing up your database, like why would you do that?
So what I'm saying makes me a laptop that just runs Ubuntu LTS with a kernel that comes from the Ubuntu mainline PPA. So essentially what I'm saying, I'm just going to buy a ThinkPad.
Well, and there is one thing I am interested in Station X's approach in some cases. Like if you look at their regular Spitfire, they have a preloaded distro option. Well, I don't know how much they put into this, like how much support or anything they do. I think it's really just they preload a distro and that's it, and they're done. But they have so many options of Ubuntu based, like they have Ubuntu Budgies, Ubuntu, Kubuntu. Then they have Manjaro, Revenge OS, Solus, Sparky Linux, OpenSUSE, Fedora, etc. Like there's so many of these.
But they don't actually provide support for it,
right? It doesn't seem like it's possible. Like that, there would be so much to do, so much. Like, how would they be able to do this? And also, this is really weird that they have an asterisk next to. They have a preloaded distro with an asterisk next to it, but there's nowhere on their website that explains what that asterisk is for.
Maybe they have
required maybe
one laptop like for every line that they sell with like Linux barbecue kind of a thing installed on it, or like a multi-boot with like 20 distros installed on that system and just all boots to the same home partition. Actually, it couldn't even, because dot files would be just freaking out because you have 20 different desktop environments essentially.
Yeah, this is definitely a thing of they can't be supporting it. They can't be like that. There's so much of this, and there's so many different bases.
So that's what we want to sell to people: is a Manjaro laptop with no customer support.
Honestly, it kind of sounds like that.
Yeah, good luck.
I hope that's not. I hope I'm wrong, and I'm just looking into it too much. But
I don't know. When was the last time you actually contacted your laptop manufacturer or phone manufacturer or whatever else?
Well, it's not the manufacturers. Like they don't manufacture these laptops. These are not made by them. These are ODM stuff. It's the same thing like System 76. It doesn't make their laptops. So I don't know,
maybe I'm just a person who would never consider that, but I've never, especially for a technical issue, I've never contacted, Google, the makers of Android, because I was confused about, how something should work.
Well, I mean, that's not really fair to say anyway, because you're in a situation where you typically wouldn't even contact them anyway. You would figure it out yourself more than likely. Whereas,
does Googling the answer for your Android problems count as contacting Google?
It might. But I mean, I guess like my parents have never called Microsoft. Microsoft calls them recently, asked them for their credit cards, but
and to tell them that they have a virus.
Exactly.
See, when they called me, the guy said they're not. He didn't say he's from Microsoft. He said he's from Windows.
Oh, nice. I'm from Windows. That's like getting the credit card people who work at both Visa and MasterCard.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So just get all your card numbers.
We need to check to make sure that you're...
I got that call once, and they didn't. They work at the bank. Which bank? Your bank.
All right. So, you know,
So I guess I don't see support as being super critical if the operating system works.
I mean, the fact that it's
there needs to be
Manjaro is
some
what
maintenance
creates that
means it
issue.
won't.
The fact that it's
Yeah.
Arch based is what creates that issue. Like you're right that it's.
But I mean, that's a target market. That's a subset of the market who might want that. That's like Microsoft selling, Windows Home and then Windows Professional or whatever else. You just have, maybe they should have options when you're purchasing, but that they will preload each is probably a good thing.
Well, they do preload it, but they
Pick your
don't
poison.
necessarily show that they're doing support. I couldn't
Right.
find that, but
Right.
the Manjaro thing, I hope that because they're doing a partnership and not they already have it preloadable, so maybe they're doing maybe they're doing support for it through this partnership thing. I don't know. Like I hope so, because that could end badly depending on who sees it who considers getting it. But best of luck. So, speaking of confusing things, Fedora 27 beta announced that they're missing their second deadline. They're going to delay it again, and this is an issue of this is like an ongoing thing for Fedora. I think you can pretty much set your clock to the fact that they're not going to match what they set their deadline to be. So they'll say, we're going to release it on this particular date on this month. And then I don't think they've ever met that. Like, at least in the last few years or so, they've never met that. Maybe ever, even. Because they always delay it. So my question is mainly, like, do you think they should even provide a deadline and just say, or do the Debian thing where it's done when it's done?
So I think it's good to have a deadline as long as everybody understands this is like a target that we want to hit. But so this makes it easier to make a timeline for things. But I think it's good that they're not like just desperately releasing because this is when it's supposed to be out. Maybe I would be upset about this. Like 10 years ago, because I wanted everything to be latest and greatest. But right now, as I got older and wiser, my opinions just give me good software that works.
Interesting.
I wouldn't be even upset if we had, the next Ubuntu would be 17.11 if it's good.
So I agree that that is a possibility, especially with the Ubuntu reference. It's like 16.04 came out, and there was that big Wi-Fi suspend bug. That maybe if they had more time, they could have fixed it. I don't know, but that bug isn't around in other distros too. But because it's not necessarily just an Ubuntu thing, but the holding back of missing your deadline. I like the fact that they're saying, we're not going to release it because it's problematic and we want to make sure that it's ready to go like day one. I can appreciate that. My point is that they always miss their deadline. I can't remember a time where they didn't. So maybe they could just give themselves more time, perhaps. Like instead of saying every 6 to 8 months, they could just say, we'll do one release a year, and they have the whole year to work on it. And then not say an actual date. They could give like a date that they have like a tentative date. They could say, this is we hope to have it done on this month. But maybe
isn't it essentially what it is at this point?
That is what it is, but they never make it. They just never actually like admit that they don't have a deadline, like a specific date they're going to release.
They're Fedora people. They're they have high spirits. They believe.
They believe. I don't know. Go ahead, Wither.
No, I was just going to say, when it comes down to whether you want to go in to have a distro that ships, as the way you want it to, or the way that it was when we needed to, send it out, that, you got to kind of weigh, at some point, you've got to kind of look at some bugs and say, is this actually a blocker? Is this something that is, super important? For example, this last Debian release, Debian 9, they went and the big thing then was, oh no, we just got our bootloader signed by Microsoft, but we don't have enough time to get that into the actual OS because we've run into other problems. So you kind of run into this thing of, so is that an important enough thing to go and to hold everything back on, or maybe we send that in after the fact. Now, as to whether that was a good idea or not, I'm not going to get into, but I think that maybe that is what Fedora should be looking more at is, are these things that you're running into, are they actual blocker bugs? If they are, then maybe you have to go and look at, why are we focusing so much on all these other things that maybe aren't really the big blockers, and not focusing more on, our core libraries or whatever it is that's causing this? Because at some point there has to be some kind of a priority on certain things, and I get that, you can't force volunteers to work on certain things, but at some level there are people inside of the, that group that are going to work on certain things that they're asked to. And, maybe you've got to focus more on, specifically identifying areas where there are going to be problems.
Yeah, I agree that they should consider whether or not these bugs are problematic enough to stop them or not. While you were talking, I decided to dig deeper into this, and found that the Fedora bug list tracker has a listing of 8 blockers that they have said that this is the reason why they're not doing it. Whether these are that bad or not, I don't know. Like, okay, this is, to be fair, this is a stupid blocker. Fedora's 27 beta backgrounds must be different than Fedora 26. The backgrounds, that's okay. No, that should not be in a blocker. Crashes in Wayland and Xorg when used on a Raspberry Pi. That's fair enough. That's a good reason. But some of these are not that good for blocking the release, because you can go in and fix them as a patch or something like that.
Well, yeah, you can always install a desktop environment on top of CentOS.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is like the ones that you've mentioned, and I know there's probably more, but do we need to release the 17 or the 17 dot whatever version of Fedora for the Raspberry Pi at the exact same time as we release the desktop versions? Is that really the most important thing there? Maybe we go and we let this go, because holding everyone back over maybe, a not as, I wouldn't say not as important a platform, but, a secondary platform is maybe not the best thing.
That's an interesting point. I haven't thought of that one, because it's kind of like the same thing, but they have the workstation and they have the server versions and stuff like that. Like, do they all have to be released at the same time? I would argue that they probably should be. Like,
no, they don't need to be.
Well, I mean, people expect it to be when you start like looking into hopping or setting up a server.
If you look at Ubuntu releases, and then within a few weeks, maybe the KDE different versions have updated to be the latest, or Linux Mint has a release, and then a few weeks or a month later, the other KDE version comes out, or whatever else. I don't see it as being that different than that as it pertains to hardware support, especially with something like ARM.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
You're tying yourself to so many potential holdups at any given point if you're willing to say that our one piece of our platform not working on this very specific use case will stop us from moving forward completely. And I mean, obviously I guess they know better, and their reasoning is listed here in the notes, but it seems a bit excessive to me with a relatively widely accepted standard out there.
I don't know. I suppose it should, like, it still should be, just because people are going to expect it to be, and then to me you're creating more confusion. I don't know. I guess it's more
You
of
just have
a
a post about it. You say it doesn't support this platform yet. You still have some bugs. No installers out there for it, so you're good to go. Or maybe they have a beta installer.
I mean, that's true, but then you have another announcement just for that one architecture that you're releasing for that. I don't know. It seems like a problematic either one of them problematic. I don't know. For me, it just feels like they should be setting deadlines that are more flexible. But I don't know. Hopefully they'll figure that out. I actually kind of miss the fact that they don't use code names anymore. But at least it's not Ocean Big Chair. Anyway, so next up is they're going to do a quick just reference to this. The Solus team announced that Budgie 11 is starting development officially, so that the switch from GTK to Qt is underway. And I'm looking forward to that, because one of the reasons I don't really want to use Budgie is because of the GTK base and the GNOME stack. So I am absolutely excited about the Budgie Qt version. But next up, we're going to talk about the Blueborn vulnerability that is a Bluetooth CVE. And I'm not as well versed in it, so if you would mind, Wizard, to take over from here.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is Blueborn, I guess, is the big thing. So Blueborn is a vulnerability. It's basically, it relies on multiple layers of what Bluetooth is, basically going and interfering with each other and falling back to an insecure mode. How it does this is a bit complicated, but to put it really simply, and I'm saying really simply because so don't write in and say, oh my goodness, there's so much more to it than that. But in brief, basically it goes and it will go and try to connect using invalid data. You then try and do the same thing at the same time extremely quickly, and basically the Bluetooth, basically the protocol itself goes and will sense that something is wrong, and then falls back to going and to allowing a really simple, like basically an unprotected connection altogether to the device. And this is all just down to failovers for old style devices. So and it comes down to, we started off with Bluetooth and everyone wanted to make Bluetooth its own thing and do different things. Like, we have networking over Bluetooth now. We have audio over Bluetooth. We have all these things over Bluetooth, and they all use different protocols. This is not some magic, we turn it into a packet just like a network stack type thing. They are completely different. Some of it's RPC based, like it's all different. And there's so many different layers that have come up over time with Bluetooth that essentially just going and manipulating how they fail, you can manipulate it to going into a really insecure mode that usually it would never fall back to. Anyway, that's the basic of what Blueborn is. So what's even worse, and it's really sad to say this, but Blues is even worse. Blues will straight up go and just let you, once you go past and you do the two things, it doesn't even fall back to the lowest point. It allows you basically straight up access to the computer. So Blues had a really terrible setup. Now, luckily, it's been patched in all Ubuntu releases, but it's still a major problem. And what's more, it's an even a bigger problem for many Android phones, because depending on your version of your phone, whether you have a KitKat phone, whether you have Lollipop, whether you have whatever it is, you will have different access. For example, KitKat, it doesn't have any form of protections really as to what access you get once you get access via Bluetooth. You basically have root. You can just transfer around the file system like you own the place. With something like Lollipop, Luckily, that is where they introduced SE Linux, but limited. So you'll be contained, but you'll still have root access in that contained area.
Right.
Now, 7 and above, I believe they have changed that slightly, and I don't know enough about Android at that level to speak with authority on it, but it shouldn't be as much of a problem. Luckily, most phones have updated, but this is still it's a major thing, and it just goes to show you this is one of those things, and this is something that we'll probably see in the future with other protocols that were, in my opinion, overused and used for more than what it really should have been used. And it's just going to, because it's such a complex system, it's very hard to go and protect against it.
Yeah, that's very good. Thank you for explaining that. And I think that's really the biggest issue for that, though, is that there's a lot of these phones that aren't ever going to be updated. They're just going to be forever vulnerable to this problem. And that's probably a significant portion of the market.
Yep. And what's worse is that, this is something that can happen not only when you're just in pairing mode. This is just walking past. So literally you could open up a laptop and just go and sit in an airport and have free range. And this is that's what's so scary about this. It's, because it's part of the protocol. It's, there's no easy way to protect against this unless you get updates.
It's kind of funny that the buffer overflow has been a technique to attack so many things for so long that when new things are coming out with the same problem, it just, I don't know, it's not funny in the sense, like just funny and ironic in the unfortunate situation. Because this Bluetooth stack, the Blueborn is a overflow issue again, and it just seems like we should be paying attention to buffer overflow as much as possible, because it's I don't know if it's the number one, but it's in the top 5 at least of reasons things get attacked.
Yeah, and what's more, and this kills me, is you go and you look at the examples for an example Blueborn vulnerability. They're not that big. This is something that you could look at and you could figure out yourself, even if you're not a programmer type thing, with a little bit of time. So this goes and it just underlines, like, oh geez, this is, how did we miss this? Now, how it works is very complicated, but to exploit it, only a couple lines. And then, if you search Blueborn vulnerabilities, you'll see examples for it. Or, maybe you'll see a link somewhere and you end up with a podcast or something like that. But, you'll it's really kind of scary, that, this is the level that, you can go and you can start actually, doing massive damage.
Yeah, like, and that it seems to be on the level of Heartbleed, but possibly even more because of the variety of devices.
I think it'll keep cropping up for a lot longer. That's not a good way of determining who is and isn't vulnerable. And somebody setting up in a coffee shop, as described in the links, could be very powerful.
Yeah, that's
you get
true.
A lot of people for years.
So I suppose the best tactic to this solution is to turn off your Bluetooth.
Yeah, don't use it.
Update
I think the only reason to use it anymore is just so you have audio on your phone. Because it's a great idea to remove the audio jack.
That's true.
Yeah,
so iPhone users are going to have fun with that one.
Yeah, not only audio, well, even the Google Pixel.
Well, because they have to if they're going to use their. I think the headphones for iPhones are now exclusively Bluetooth.
I think you can get an adapter that goes into your Lightning port.
Oh, okay, yeah, that might.
Yeah, you get an adapter, but you can't use both at the same time. So you couldn't, for example, use some kind of a splitter and charge your phone and use headphones through the adapter at the same time.
That's bad design. So,
Yep.
so it's kind of like
So,
hopefully this, I'm glad that Ubuntu has already patched it. That's fantastic, and I hope.
Well, remember the guy who there's this super popular video that blew up a few months ago where a guy built his own iPhone from parts in China.
Yeah.
yeah, I saw
There's
that.
another one when he added a jack to his iPhone. And yeah, he essentially had to it's kind of interesting to watch how much effort he had to go through to do it. And essentially, he's using that adapter inside of the phone. But he has a separate port, and he soldered on a thing to his lightning port on the inside of the phone. But he still has to use a switcher, and he can't charge and listen, through that headphone jack at the same time.
Yeah, that seems pretty problematic. I saw what the first video he did where it was like, I built my own phone. I'm like, not really. I mean, the most difficult pieces of a phone required you to go to someone else who did it for you, and so you really just assembled it. You didn't really build it; you assembled it. So.
Oh, okay, Mr. Criticizer.
I'm just saying, like the way he
Yeah,
described
I'd
it.
like to see you try to pull that.
I could totally
I
do
thought it
that.
was
I could
super
totally do
interesting.
that if I lived in a place where you could walk around the corner and all the parts of your phone are there.
Oh, you mean there's no such?
He designed his own PCBs
like
and
that.
got them custom printed.
Actually, with
Yeah.
with the audio jack thing, he actually got his own. He actually designed his own board and got it printed, and then got it printed on like a flexible thing.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
so
didn't
I-
see that video, so that might be different. So I'll
It's long, but it's actually really good, and it even has like a Act 3 cliffhanger in it, so it's pretty good.
all right. So I'll take a look at it then, because that does sound a lot more than just piecing things together. If he's actually like designing a board for this to be on it, like fair enough on that one.
Yeah, he actually I'm actually kind of excited on how he's going to top that one, because it seems like he's going to continue building stuff. It will probably be like another 8 or 12 weeks before he does another video, because just of the amount of work that go into them. But yeah, like the audio jack one is significantly more elaborate than the building the phone.
That sounds interesting. In the chat room, Liberty Paul said that the only thing he uses Bluetooth for is listening to music in his car. And now he may be considering connecting his phone to the car via aux. And I would say that you should do that just because the audio quality is going to be way better with an aux input versus
It's
a
much more
Bluetooth.
reliable.
Yeah.
And a lot of cars start disabling Bluetooth settings and pairing and all that kind of stuff when your car's in motion. So whenever my audio on my phone messes up in any way, I have to like pull the car over to fix it. Aux is just better. I've started using that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. Like, when I first started doing it, I tried to use Bluetooth, and the audio just went bad. And like, the only time I could ever say it's worth it is if you have like a microphone built into your like the roof of your car, and that you can like have a hands-free conversation. That might be viable then. But as far as like quality of the audio, I would go with aux regardless anyway, just because it's going way better quality. And preferably, what I want to do, that's for another show. I want to make like a custom stereo thing that connects your phone to it. That'd be cool. Anyway, so that's it for the show. Except there's a bonus news thing that came out today. I wanted to talk about, where today there was an announcement that the Top Icons Plus extension has been discontinued. And now, I'm not typically one to brag, but I did call that like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So, I just want to bring it up that it's like a follow up to that particular topic we discussed, where they announced that the API for making Top Icons Plus was going to be removed from the GTK, just the GTK toolkit itself, so that it would be impossible essentially for the Top Icons Plus extension to exist. And they have now announced that it will no longer be worked on. So
so you're going to tell me that the top bar in GNOME is not just a widget container and you can't put any widgets you want in it? That's just unreasonable.
no, it is not a widget container. That is accurate to say. It does not do that. You actually do require a developer to build things for you that will be specifically adjusting certain sections of your DE that you would not be able to choose how most of these things are modified, unfortunately. But
broken by design.
Okay.
#no.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just something I wanted to point out because it's just interesting. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, and then all of a sudden today that they announced that it's actually gone. And another thing that's interesting is the same situation happened just a couple days ago with the GNOME Global Menu extension. That's also being discontinued for similar reasons. That the APIs are going to be removed, and the work that they're doing is like they don't have the time to rewrite the whole thing, essentially. And the Top Icons Plus is a situation where they have an API that currently still exists in 326, and they could continue to work, and it will work in GNOME itself right now. However, the GTK4 version removes it entirely. So all of the stuff that makes it work is gone in GTK4. So the Top Icons Plus people said that because of all of this, they have they don't have the ability to compensate for that removal of the API. Canonical noticed that this was going to be a problem, and they released the fork of K status notifier app indicator or something / app indicator, something like that, where it converts extensions to support app indicators specifically, so that you can have not necessarily just applets, but also like the specific spec of app indicators working inside of the GNOME shell. So they forked that one, and because that one doesn't have the dependency of the API that GNOME is removing. So if you're going to use GNOME and you want top icons or app indicators, your current option for 326 is to use Ubuntu. And that's it. So eventually, hopefully, someone will, increase the development on the K-status thing, maybe. But only time will tell. However, it is definitely certain that GNOME wants to remove it entirely and hate it with absolute disdain. They have basically explained it that way and have mocked developers for not following suit. So, good luck to people who want those. Or, you check out Plasma, LXQT, Mate, Budgie, or any other desktop environment that actually wants to support things that the users want.
With sane defaults and good designs and menu bars.
Menu bars, yeah.
Task trace.
It's
icons. Settings. But imagine a desktop environment that gave you settings.
Well, that would be nice. Having settings.
See, I don't understand why people like GTK. Like in Qt,
Legacy.
Everything is either a widget or a widget container, and widgets go into containers. It's really that simple. In GTK, you have things that are behave like containers, but they're technically widgets, and so you can't actually like put certain things in certain menus, and you arrive in this like incredible weirdness, and then suddenly you're forking notification applets just to have like basic features working. And of course, in response to like every new idea, known people are just going to remove features because I guess you can't have bugs if you just remove the application that had the bug in it.
That's true. If the code is not there anymore, it's definitely not buggy. But so GNOME, good luck to you guys. Everyone who uses GNOME,
You're gonna need it.
definitely good luck to you guys. And maybe in the future, Ubuntu will finally realize that they should listen to the video I made about they should use Plasma.
Mm-hmm.
So, I hope that they will at least consider it at this point, considering they're having to fix so many things that they realize that their users want and are going to expect. And all users are going to expect this, regardless if they're Unity users or not.
Well, apparently there was a conversation in the Ubuntu camp. They didn't just go, oh, let's go back to GNOME. Apparently they had a conversation about it, but the mailing list thread or minutes from that meeting or
There's
anything is nowhere to be seen. So
they
who
claim
knows
that there
what
was
the
a
logic
discussion. We don't know
what the logic was behind that decision.
What I want to know is find out who's involved in the discussion, and just it'd be fine if we did it privately. I'd be okay with that. I don't have to be public about it. Like if they only sign an NDA or whatever, that can't happen because I want to tell people. But what I want to do is find out who's involved in that conversation, and then talk to them about the latest issues of GNOME removing all this stuff and how that would have affected their decision now. Because I think the fact that they have to fix all this stuff in order to get their users to a state of just normal usability is kind of unfortunate. Windows users coming from Windows to Ubuntu are already going to have a massive, interface clash with the top icons and, not being there or something like that. But just the UI is 100% different. Top panel, the dock on the left, things like that. It's going to be very, very different for them. And to also make it difficult for them to, their workflow is going to have to be completely replaced, where they have their system tray with all the applications that are running that they interact with that way. All of that is removed too. This is just an unfortunate situation that I hope Canonical will come to the conclusion that they need to change again, and I'll help them to show. I'll send the video to them, let them know there's options. There's options. But anyway, so thanks for watching the show, and thanks for coming to the live stream, and thanks for you guys to being on the show. It was fun.
Yay.
And I hope
lunch out on your way out the door.
What?
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 Sorry,
okay.
I ruined the outro.
Perhaps we're doing outro. Well, you're right. We
Improved. You mean improved?
We shouldn't do an outro yet. We should first talk about this episode was sponsored by the Linux is Everywhere t-shirt, designed and sold by TuxDigital to and express the fact that Linux is everywhere. Even if you don't know it's there, you're probably using it.
That's creepy.
That's what?
Creepy.
Creepy. Why? Oh, because it's there whether you know it or not. I don't know. Well, 1:30. Okay, so that I'm gonna end it where I shield the shirt again. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that the show is done. I'm gonna do stream a little bit more, but the show itself is done. And
oh no!
And Well, you didn't miss a ton. Like you covered. You were here for most of the stuff. But I did get the message you sent. I was like, well, I mean, it's been in like an hour and like 25 minutes or so. So like we gotta kill it.
Yep. I was going and I was just like, I should not have drunk those 2 bottles of water before the show started.
Yeah, it
I
happens.
made a terrible mistake.
I thought you were gonna say bottles of wine.
No. And when it came to the blue zone, it's like the blue zone is that feeling that you get after.
What is the like retention rate on those videos on the recorded version? Like, do people watch actually beyond the first 5 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
The show when I actually make the show, and it's not just the regular stream, because I have done that too, where it's just a stream and it's just me, conversing with people. So that the stream is still on. We're not ending this show. This is a post show discussion, so we could be talking about whatever you want. And although Vape Nation horn, probably not a topic we're going to discuss.
So back to Magic the Gathering.
First, let's first talk about the Linux is Everywhere T-shirt and how amazing it is, and people should want it. And if they do want it, they should go get it at teespring.com. Anyway, so yeah, Magic the Gathering.
Actually, just before you start, I and legitimately, I'm not trolling you right now. I do need to go to work soon, and I gotta drive 3 hours to work. So I need to go.
Well, okay, and also to be fair, Frizzle, he did tell me that before anyone else joined the server, so it's not like it's just because of Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, and Rotten is definitely not failing me right now.
I was just surprised that you actually have to drive 3 hours to work.
Yeah, I'm currently at my family's house. I'm running to work for a night shift. It's a bad time.
It's a bad time.
Anyway, great talking with all of you.
Absolutely.
Hopefully I can do it again soon.
Yep, we do this show. I do this stream. I don't know if this show is actually this is experimental show type thing right now, still, but the stream is every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, and I've only missed it once since starting it, but it's not always a show. Sometimes it's just a regular discussion. But either way, stream Sunday 1 p.m.
Okay. Well, okay.
All
Talk
right.
to everyone later.
All right, see ya.
That's it. Bye.
So, what are you waiting for?
Good.
Are you still waiting? Pirates and dinosaurs?
I mean, see now, if I'm if we're going to meet up somewhere, I'm definitely bringing 2 decks with me. I'm gonna force you to learn how to play.
Okay, if you come to Self next year, for sure, I'll be there. 2018 Self, I'll be there. So bring Magic the Gathering then. And anybody who's watching and wants to meet me, you can meet me at Self 2018.
When is Scale?
Next April, I think. Maybe next.
Oh, okay.
Might be March. Depends. I don't remember exactly. So we're between March and April, somewhere around there. But they changed the location of Scale again, so I don't know if they're gonna change the date again, because they changed the date from 2016 to 2017 a month different. So there's really no telling at this point. I don't think they have announced it yet. They might have, and I just don't pay attention enough for it. Whatever.
I'll check now.
LinuxCon changed entire section of the country. So I might go to Scale too. I don't know. That one's a little bit farther from me, so it's a little bit more difficult. I can drive to Self. I mean, I won't, but I could. Is the point. Let's see. Like I wanted to bring up that topic thing, that top icons thing for the show, mainly to point out that I was right. I mean, it's a little bit egotistical, but I did make a declaration that it was going to happen eventually. A couple weeks ago. I didn't expect it to be so soon though. So I was like, wow, I nailed that.
Kind of glad I'm just going to KDE.
There you go. The best DE ever.
I
Welcome
totally
to the
forgot
stream,
I
Rose.
used 4 as well.
Do what? Oh, 4?
Yeah.
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 There's still a distro that is like releasing with KDE 4 as the main thing. And it's not even like super old. It's like that's the decision they made.
Weird.
Yeah. I saw that. I was like, that is problematic.
I mean, it works. Like, KDE4 worked for me, but I just did not like the UI as much as I love Plasma now.
I mean, to be fair, Plasma is also part of KDE4. It's just Plasma 4 was ugly and hideous because Oxygen was disgusting, and Plasma 5 is nice because Breeze looks good.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is, yeah. Welcome to the stream, Rose. You are somewhat late. You're not late to the stream. The stream still exists. We're still, whatever it's called. Not continuing, but like, is it trucking on can't be right? I think that's right. I think that might be it, but that I don't know. Anyway, but the show has ended literally like 7 minutes ago. So, interesting timing. Wellness Ox.
Yes.
I just want to let you know, if you haven't noticed, I made you moderator in Discord.
All right, that's cool.
Yeah. Just because. No obligation or anything. Just, just because.
So, Scales happening in March 8th to 11, 2018, Pasadena Convention Center, which is where they moved it to last year.
Okay, cool. So they kept it the same place. And it sounds like they're keeping the same month, too.
Yeah, I think it was 2016 or 2015. It was in Pomona, which is a little bit further out. Pasadena is fairly closer, so if I'm still working by that time, I might actually go this year.
Nice. Like I haven't considered that one yet, but I might. There's only like a few I really want to go to, and Scale's one of the few I want to go to.
Yeah, it's fairly closer to me, so that's kind of the primary reason why.
Understandable. It's not remotely close to me, so that's why I'm hesitant to even consider it. Rose said in the chat room, because I still have the shirt on the screen, that the shirt looks cool, but it's nice color. It should be pink. So you can actually change the color of the shirt. It doesn't have to be black. It's just black because Tux's body is black, so it blends nicely. You can have a purple one for sure. I know that one. I think I might have made a pink one. I don't know. I definitely made a purple one. The issue is that the yellow is not changeable. So it has to be a color that like looks decent with whatever background it is. And the purple one looks pretty good. So there is that. The shirt is made on Teespring. So unfortunately, I forgot during the discussion and me, plugging the thing to put a link in. Because I have a screen for the OBS that is like has the URL on the screen, and I forgot to put that in to the stream. So hello, Hawk. Welcome to the stream. So that's the show.
You should put that in a pinned message on Discord.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point. I have no problem with that. Is it possible to pin on this? I don't think so.
You can do you can tip to like pin. The super chat message becomes pinned on top. So you can give yourself $100, pay the YouTube tax, and have a message on top.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on that one.
I think they did it actually fairly. The thing they did is actually fairly interesting, where the more you donate through the super chat, the longer the message stays out there.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I do like that because the Twitch approach is just like flat number, and it's just normal, no time structure.
I do agree with Rose though. There should be a pink shirt. Next design you make should work with pink.
Yeah, I'll make some multiple like color options so that it's like a variety. Like there already is a color option now. There's only like I think 5. Pink is not one of them.
Yeah, 5.
Yeah.
You have purple.
Yep. That's what I think the purple looks pretty decent. So if somebody wants, close to pink, that's sort of. But I might make like in the future. I'll make like a full color art that is usable on like this is what it's supposed to be. This is what I want. This is what I designed it to be. And then I make a monochrome color so it's like adjustable to like whatever color you want it to be. So it's like maybe I might make a next like a revised version of this one. So like all the yellow parts are just gray or white or something, so they would work on regardless of whatever kind of shirt you want.
Personally, I like the black option because it's stealthy. So it's kind of like Linux is everywhere, but it's like you don't see it.
Exactly.
It blends into the background.
Exactly. When I started making this design, that's what I wanted to convey. So it's like I made it black. I do like black shirts, as you can tell. I'm wearing one, but I specifically wanted it black because Tux, the penguin, is black. So I wanted it to blend, so it just to show that it's a great, it's a great way to convey to people that it also like when I've wore it out to people and people are like stop me and say like why do you have like what do you mean with this? It's everywhere. I've never even heard of it. And I start explaining, and they go, "Oh, well, so I actually already have it, use it every day." Like, yes, you do. Oh, Catman 1900 in the chat is actually give a $2 in the super chat, so that's awesome. That's amazing. Thank you. Says thanks for the awesome channel, and I appreciate that you enjoy my channel. Random question for anyone. But, you brought it up. Like, what part of my channel is awesome? Do you like the shows like this where it's a live stream? Or do you like the concise tutorial structure? What's your favorite part, I guess?
I like both the tutorial structure and the streaming. Yeah, I like being kept up to date on the news primarily.
I like the KD propaganda.
Yes, that too.
That is not my purpose for this channel. It does happen on the stream sometimes, but that's not my purpose. I don't want people to think that I'm the KDE guy, because I don't have anything against anything else. I technically speaking, I do, like the decisions that the developers make and things like that, but I don't care what people use. They use whatever they want. You know?
True.
But I will point out when things are somewhat broken. Or when they make a decision that hurts people.
Yeah, I mean, you've done that in the past when we've talked about KDE on other channels and stuff. So, I mean, it's not like you're totally for KDE and push it. You'll criticize it just as much as, praise it.
Yeah. There are things that I absolutely hate about Plasma. But it's also a preference thing.
Yeah, like the fact that not everybody's using it right now.
Well, I mean, there also are things that are badly done. Like the keyboard shortcuts, for example, are half okay and half incredibly stupid. But Catman said, love being kept up to date on Linux. Okay, cool. I appreciate that feedback. That is one of the things that I try to do. And I'm actually making a new style of the show. Like, this is the live stream of the show. The show itself is a different thing. So I might need to make a new name for this particular show if I continue to do it. Because This Week in Linux Live, and then there also being a This Week in Linux, kind of confusing even to me, and I'm the one making it. So I was thinking maybe the live version would be Last Week in Linux or something like that. I don't know. But I appreciate the feedback from everybody. Also, Hawk and 1291 in the chat decided to point out the fact that I call it GNews, and yes, I like to. That bothers some people, and other people enjoy the pun. So I enjoyed the pun.
I think kind of lame, but I like lame puns. So
right, it is lame, and it's supposed to be, but it's also like a fun purpose. Like it's supposed to be fun. It's like you don't need to take it serious.
It's the comedy part of the show.
Yeah, that's one of them. I do make jokes sometimes in the show. I make more jokes in the live stream than I do in the show itself, but I should probably look into that. Give it some more little.
No, the jokes in the actual show sound so rehearsed. Like, you can tell, like, almost by like the tone of your voice, I can count how many times you recorded that bit.
That's true. I was gonna try to argue that I don't do that, but I totally do that. I totally do that. I've the one I did a song where I sang a little bit. That one I did it twice, I think, because I didn't want to make it super obvious. But I
should have hired Citizen to do it. Now, for the next time, you have $2 now in the show budget, so you can pay Citizen $2 to make you some good sound bites.
Maybe. But yeah, that was awesome for the super chat. I appreciate it a ton. The in the chat room, let's see. Everything about computers suck, and you just use things that suck the least. That's pretty much. I mean, there are things about Plasma that are fantastic that I love. Like KWin is amazing, but there are things about KWin I don't like, and there's things about other parts of Plasma that I don't like. Larry Paw, I like it all. This I didn't mean to rhyme that, by the way. It just automatically happened. Anyway, the streams, the tutorials, and the Rocket League. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Like, I kind of thought people might get sick of the Rocket League thing because it's not remotely related to the topic. It's like, yeah, it works on Linux, but it's not really Linux related.
Next time we should stream Morrowind.
No. No. I don't
Should
have
do
7
like-
hours to do that. To get, like, 10% into the game.
You think you can get 10% into the game in 7 hours?
My bad. I meant 10% into one mission.
See, okay, so I don't know how many hours I sunk into it because I don't play it through any Steam service or anything like that. So I don't know how many hours I have into it. But I got to like level almost 30, I think, which is about where you would like go to kill the final boss in Morrowind. And I didn't even talk to the first person of the main quest line.
That's a lot. It's a lot of time. Like that.
Like
I spend a lot of time with some games, but at least it does. Some of games are streamable. Some games are not.
I mean, I think Morrowind is streamable if you're an entertaining person. So obviously you couldn't do it, but I could.
Wow.
I can pull off streaming Morrowind.
Wow. That's some fighting words. Is that a challenge? That sounds like a challenge. In the chat room, Serge had to also point out about his preferences of what he likes about the channel. I mean, not had to. I appreciate it, by the way. But it says the live stream, your tutorials, your reviews, but definitely not Rocket League. So I kind of expected some people not to like Rocket League.
See, I will start playing Rocket League when I can like pause it and think, okay, I need to go like at this angle and like do this and click this at this time and like just so I don't have to like I need like turn-based Rocket League.
You can do that on the on the single player, like exhibition stuff when you try to learn how to play the game. You can do that.
So what I'm saying essentially is I'm just gonna stick to playing Civilization.
Right. I figured. That's okay. You should totally watch Play Rocket League though. It's fantastic. Liberty Paul says I love puns. Love lame puns. I was like, yeah, lame puns are the best. The best puns. I guess all puns are lame to some people. I don't know. In the chat room said a KDE would be nice if there was a Solus flavor. There is talk about a Solus flavor being made. However, the guy who maintains the KDE packages in Solus is just one dude, and he doesn't want to like maintain a distro, so like a distro branch. So that makes sense. I can understand that. I'm surprised he's maintaining the entire stack himself, much less also running a distro with it. Oh, Catman, you maintain the OpenBox package for Solus? That's cool. Yeah, maintain is relative. That's true.
I remember when OpenBox was cool.
It's still
Like
still
10
nice.
years ago.
It's just not what's the word? It's just not plasma.
Are LXQT guys still using OpenBox?
Yeah, they sure are.
See, I think it was the Crunchbang people who actually wrote all the Python stuff around OpenBox to actually give it like modern
Yeah, it was.
window manager behavior. So like you could have corner clipping and whatnot.
Snapping, yeah.
Yeah, corner snapping.
It
But
was
if I were to
Crunchbang.
use OpenBox, I would have to spend like 2 days to set it up.
I mean-
like there's seriously no reason for me to bother.
I mean, that's. I mean, a lot. It's for some people. I understand it. Like a lot of people want the minimalism, and it's got a lot of features. But like basic OpenBox, if like you just if you just kind of like set up OpenBox by default, there's a lot to work on. You got a lot of stuff to do. But if some distros have like Archbang, unfortunately Crunchbang is gone, but Crunchbang plus I think exists now, and Antergos has an OpenBox version and stuff like that. So when something is set up for you, OpenBox is not that bad. But if you got to do it yourself, then you realize that every piece of menu, like your main menu, everything in there is manually done, not automated. So when you install software, it's not there. You have to put it there yourself.
Well, okay, that you can automate it.
You can automate with a different tool that Crunchbang made.
Yeah, essentially everything that gives OpenBox like any relatively modern behavior is written by Crunchbang people. Well, not entirely. The thing that actually, I think what the Crunchbang guys did, they took the the library or whatever it's called that builds menus for any other desktop environment. So I think it's the same one in KDE and GNOME and most other desktop environments. And they just wrote some code on top of it to make it work with OpenBox, which is all right.
Yeah, that's true.
I just you have to make sure we give them credit, but not too much credit.
Not too much. Yeah, because there are other people who do make stuff for OpenBox. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that people are working on. Bunsen Labs does OpenBox stuff. I think they use OpenBox by default. Well, there are some people who like use it in a DE aspect because of the connections it has with other things. So yeah, it's definitely not a DE though. There's a lot of
Well, it has a menu.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
But
I
it
know.
does,
It's a window manager.
Right. If it had a panel, like its own built-in panel, you could then say that it could be sort of close to ODE. But because it doesn't do that, I think that's one of the things that limits it from being called that. Like actually limits it.
Well, I think in order to be a desktop environment, it would have to come with a toolkit. The way GNOME, KDE, E17 do. I'll still count LXD and LXQT and XFC, LXD, all of those, even though they don't have their own toolkits, but they are based on toolkits rather than written from scratch without a toolkit.
Yeah, that's true. Right, I know.
So I would say it has to either come with like a basic suite of applications or have a toolkit that you can build one with.
Right. And Surge, I know that the Tint 2 is what I was going to refer to, but the fact that it doesn't have its own panel is what makes it not possible to be added at, in my opinion. I think there's other things as well, but that's like, if they had their own panel, you could kind of argue that it is, but since it doesn't, it's really pretty much impossible to call it one.
Well, you can technically almost count Tint 2 as OpenBox's panel because nobody's using Tint 2 with anything else other
True,
than OpenBox.
But I'm saying like Fluxbox uses it, I think, but there's
people still use Flexbox?
Yeah. People still use JWM. So.
Well, that's popular Linux users.
True, and other people, sadly, other people as well. JWM is bad. Let's just say bad. But Anthony brought up a point that is somewhat true. Linux Tribe should focus more on the applications and commercial use than so many different distros. I would say that that's somewhat true, but I don't know. I don't really want them to work on applications other than their own. So I actually hate the idea that I hate the distribution structure of applications in Linux. I've always hated it. But when I started actually making my own software and distributing it, I realized how much I hated it. So, thanks to stuff like snaps and app images and Flatpaks, the potential for application development and commercial use is a lot higher than it used to be. On the workstation desktop level, like enterprise level, Linux has always been the go-to. I mean, the server-wise. Yeah, Antix uses Fluxbox. And I'm pretty sure a few of them do. I used Antix a while ago, and it had Fluxbox from back then. It was like, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, at least. Last time I used Antix. And they had Fluxbox then. So they probably still have they probably had it for a very long time and just keep it.
I would like to make a very sad announcement right now. I just found out that I lost my partner for the two-headed giant Magic the Gathering event tonight.
If I was anywhere close to you, I would totally help and pick up the slack.
Actually, that would be hilarious because I don't know what I'm doing either. So
it's like just lay this card. Like I decide to lay this card. You're screwed. And they're like, you don't know what you're doing, do you? Correct.
It's actually like if you're playing with somebody who knows how to play, it's actually a ton of fun.
Well, in a sense, if you don't know, it's kind of unpredictable, and they're kind of,
Yeah,
screwed.
but you're just going to get destroyed by the good people over there.
No. See, the way I play Magic is that I gather the magic around me, and then I unleash it through cards.
Fair enough.
I actually don't have anything against Magic the Gathering. It's just like it costs so much money. Like I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. It really doesn't.
I know it's just got that stigma. I mean, I definitely play it. I have nothing against trying stuff.
So okay, so let me
I've even LARPed
because
before,
now you open the Pandora's box. I'm gonna dispel that.
No,
Magic the Gathering.
No, we use Pithos because Pithos works on Linux for Pandora. You're welcome.
There's this misconception that Magic the Gathering is expensive, and if you play it for long enough, doesn't matter what format you play, it's going to get expensive, right? Like over time, we're just going to spend a lot of money on it, but it's the same thing, probably the cheapest hobby you could ever pick up is like drawing or painting, right?
Sure.
But once you get to like expensive, watercolors, it's $7 or $8 a color for watercolors.
Yeah, that's true.
So like no matter what hobby you pick up, over time you're going to spend a lot of money on it, right? So, but as far as playing Magic the Gathering, you can really limit how much money you spend on it. Like there's a format called Pauper. Oh, I should preface that with Magic the Gathering has formats. So depending on which formats, you can have a format that uses cards that are out of print right now, and they're going to have ridiculously expensive um, uh, prices for the decks. Because if there's $100 card in the deck, and you want 4 of them in the deck, well, that's $400. So you could spend a lot of money on it, but you could also play a format like Pauper, which limits how expensive the cards could be. So most decks like close the price within like $50 for like a really good competitive deck. Or you can, for $50 pick up somebody's, unwanted cards. There's people that have been playing for so long and they have just stack of cards that are effectively worthless to them because they only play like competitive and only keep the good expensive stuff, and give away everything else. You could literally just pick up somebody's cards that they don't want and start building decks with them and just have fun with and play with your friends. With literally starting at 0 money.
That sounds reasonable.
There's actually a term for it. Like when a lot of people draft cards, which drafting is a format where you open booster packs, and essentially whatever's in the booster packs, or let's just assume let's wrap all sealed formats into it. In sealed formats, you open booster packs and you have to build a deck out of whatever's in the booster packs, right? So like your cards, it doesn't matter, what cards you've collected over the last 20 years that you've been playing. This is your card pool that's kind of randomly generated, and you have to build something out of it. So that money-wise, that puts everybody on an even playing field, and it's down to your skill there's randomness to it because somebody else could just get really good cards and you didn't. But it also comes down to how well you can evaluate cards and how well you can actually build a deck out of those cards, right, and how well you can play that deck after. But a draft costs $30 to get into, depending on the format. It could be 25, it could be 30, it could be 20. And then after drafts, the guys who play competitively, they keep the 5 or 6 cards that are worth something, and just leave the 40 cards that they don't want on the table when they leave the store. And it's called, people call it draft chaff, and you can just pick it up. It's, whoever wants it. If you're a new player, you can pick up all these cards for free. So you can go to a draft, spend $25, play some cool Magic, and walk away from there with 100 and something cards.
I mean, I'm willing to give it a shot. Especially if it was free. If it's free, I'll do it for sure.
If you really get lucky, you can actually walk in there and make money on it. I went to a pre-release sealed event last night, and I did terribly. Right, so if you go to an event like this, you could just win booster packs or store credit or something, and right. So if you're really good, you could essentially just keep playing on store credit and never actually spend any money except for the first time you jump. But I paid $30 to get in, and I opened my pre-release kit, and my promo card was the most expensive one in the set, so it's worth $40. So I essentially made $10 if I sell that card, and I got to play some cool Magic the Gathering games. I
probably won't get into that much. I don't know. Trying to. It sounds like making money on it would have been something I'd be you know, that sounds like a lot of effort, honestly. I made money on
Sure.
Rocket League
How so?
selling items.
Really?
Yeah, you can. In Rocket League, there's these things called toppers, which are basically hats that sit on top of the car. There's antennas, which no one really cares about. But then so toppers, wheels, paint decals. There's like skins that are animated, and those cost even more. Then you can get like painted wheels that are specifically custom. Then there's also like premium type wheels, different tiers of quality, and you can actually sell those. Like there's like a market. It's a.
So it's like skins in Counter-Strike.
Yeah. It's like Counter-Strike skins, yeah. And it's similar in the same sense, like you can get some stuff from crates and things like that. So I've made a few transactions. So far, it's like obviously it's not worth a lot of money. I made like probably $50 ever. And it took a long time to do that.
See, that's the one thing that I found ridiculous about the Counter-Strike is the prices some of the skins reach. Like some of the
A couple
knives.
hundred for
Oh,
one
a couple
thing.
hundred? You mean a couple thousand?
Well, there are some thousand things in Rocket League too, but like, I don't know, just the color of something makes it like absurd. The most expensive thing in Rocket League, $7,000.
What?
Yeah. Guess what it is?
I don't know, a copy of a CS:GO skin.
That'd be cool. Like, there's animated decals, there's toppers, there's wheels, there's specific cars, there's different things like that are all, you know, variety. And you would go, I would think there's actual custom goal explosions and stuff too. So like when you get a goal, it explodes, but now you can get like a skull that like explodes out of the goal, and it has like fire around it and stuff. It's pretty cool. That's like 20 keys or so, $20.
Okay, so
The
hold
most
on for a second,
expensive.
because
Go ahead.
the most expensive item, the most expensive skin in CS:GO, which is a stat track M9 bayonet, Crimson Web Factory New. It sold for $23,850.
That's insane. That is insane.
Yep.
So
And that was on April 14th. At the time, April 14th, 2014. At the time, there was only one of those knives in the game. That's why it's so expensive.
yeah, but it's still just a knife. It still cuts the same amount of any other knife.
Yep.
That's why it's ridiculous. But like, okay, so
there's apparently like a bunch of people in, I think, like one of those like Saudi Arabian princes or whatever that, you know, play this game, and they just have stupid amounts of oil money and like drive some of the prices of the skins up.
maybe,
right? Because obviously they're only worth as much as people are going to wait to pay for.
Yeah, sure. This
So
the Rocket League thing that's a 7,000. It's a hat. It goes on top of your car, like an actual hat, not just like a topper, but it's a hat that is white, and it's literally called the white hat. And that's it.
see, an additional thing in CS:GO is like if two people get the same knife, but they like a lot of items have patterns on them, right? So a knife, you could have like a fade color knife with like a gradient color on it, but you know, when the knife is generated, it generates a gradient, but it doesn't always generate the same gradient for every knife, right? So some knife with like gradient patterns on them look better than others. So you could have two that are essentially the same by name, but one looks better than the other, and that would drive price up.
That's ridiculous. In the chat room, Rose said, Tux, you don't have any colors for a hoodie or a bunny hug. I don't know what a bunny hug is. The many colors on the hoodie is because Teespring limits the amount of items and colors you can have. So you can have a bunch of colors for one type of product, or you can have a bunch of products with a few colors. So I did the few products with a few colors. I had to limit myself, and unfortunately, I think I should maybe like make a one for each one, like the Linux is Everywhere T-shirt, Linux is Everywhere hoodie, and there's separate campaigns. That you just pick what color you want, and it has like the unlimited color options. Maybe. I have to look into that, I guess. The shirts and hoodies have different sizes, yes. You can choose which size and stuff you want when you check out. What those sizes are, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's like small to extra, extra large. Or I don't know how big it is. I think you get the highest it goes to like 4 or something. I could be wrong. Because I don't remember what it was. But it's more than like the typical stuff. $80 to compile Firefox. That makes sense. Chromium takes like 2.5 hours or so. Shader, thanks for coming to the show, stream thingy. Have a good one. Paul, yes, I agree. We do need to make a Linux is Everywhere Snuggie.
You know what? Actually, now that we're all back on that, I kind of don't like the whole. You know what? Never mind. I'm gonna talk to you.
I'm gonna kick you out right now. How dare you?
I'm gonna talk to you when the stream's out.
It's gonna sue you for.
For defamation.
I meant to say I would love it.
It's not for everybody, obviously. I don't pretend it is. Should be, though. It's your fault.
If you don't like it, you're immoral, most likely. So,
exactly.
So you're trying to get at?
You're unethical, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Bye, Shader. Thanks. I'm glad you liked the show. Let's see. Probably going to end the show in about 5 minutes or so. In the stream of main.
Cool.
Hey, puppy. Where am I? You can't see him. Oh, you can. There he is. He's a little buddy. Take him away. Take him away. What's up, dude? I know. What time is it? Oh, it's almost time. I understand why you're here. I understand why you're here. It's almost time.
Would you describe your dog as needy?
Needy? No, he's just hungry.
Same thing, right?
He usually
Am
eats
I
about this time,
right?
and he started whining. I was like, I wonder what time it is. Like, oh, it's the time where he wants food. That makes sense. Rose, the show will actually be... The stream is available on Patreon in full. The show is separate on YouTube. And you basically just missed the show. So, there you go. So I guess I'll have to end the show sooner than I thought because the dog wants to get food, and I should probably do that. Oh, Rose is asking what kind of dog it is. He is a mix between a Rottweiler and a Shar Pei. And he is a talker as well, if you can't tell.
A mix between a Rottweiler and a Sharpie.
I said a Shar Pei. Thank you.
Sharpei.
Shar
As
Pei.
in, you took a Sharpie marker and you colored in.
No. The marker is French. Shar Pei. No, he's not. He's not upset, Rose. He just likes to talk. He's not upset. This is the other one. Hello. There you go. I know, dude. I know, dude. I'll feed you. It still looks okay, dude. Alrighty, so this one is a Great Dane, and this one is a Rottweiler Shar Pei. Let's go. All right, I'm in the stream. Feed them so they can, stop being hungry. Thanks for coming by the show and being on the stream. Thanks for Wolf and Fressel and Wizard's no longer here, but thanks for coming to this, helping me with the stream. Wildness Ox, thanks for showing up eventually, sir. Anyway, thanks for everybody coming to the stream and watching the show, and be sure to come back next week for the same Linux time, same Linux channel. That's a Batman 60s reference, by the way.
Yep.
I don't get it. Can you explain?
Oh, it's because, no.
It's because I wasn't alive in the 60s. I don't know what to tell you.
I wasn't either, but you've never gone online and watched the 1960s Batman? Really?
No.
You need to do that. You need to fix your problem right now and go watch that, because it's so stupid but fun at the same time.
Was there internet then? Is it even on YouTube?
It is on YouTube, probably. Yeah. At least some of it is. At least the memes about it are. Where he picks up a bomb and runs through the city trying to save everybody because he's got a stupid fake bomb. It's so hilarious because it's so bad. Anyway. Again, thanks for coming to the show and everybody. Haven't seen Batman 60s, go watch it.